Hey, hey! Hey guys, I couldn't be more excited to be coming back to the CrossFit Games again this 2019 season. And thank you all for being here and supporting me throughout this whole journey. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight behind the scenes on how this weekend kind of played out. So starting out, day one. We had the obstacle course and the Fittest in Cape Town bust us out to an offsite venue. Had a really cool obstacle course that a lot of us had never done, some of those type of implements. So it was a really cool test of fitness and to be able to adapt. It was two events. One of them was a relatively like a 4-minute long obstacle course, and the second one was a shorter, a less scored event, and it was a super short little grip strength, monkey bar basically to get across this obstacle. And it was a cool event, and it went relatively well. I think that the obstacles were challenging, and it just really punished you if you made any sort of mistake. So I was lucky enough to not make any major mistakes and just kind of keep right in the mix of it the whole time. On day two, we got bussed out yet again to a different venue, and this was actually like a park. It kind of reminded me, honestly, I've never been here to Cape Town, but it really reminded me of the kind of the scenery of Monterey. It was pretty wild. And so we went out to this park, and there was this just massive hill. We couldn't see the whole hill, so we just saw like the first little bit, and it looked pretty gnarly, and all we were told it was gonna be roughly 400 meters, that we were gonna have a sandbag that's 150 pounds, we're gonna have to pick up at some point, and we're gonna carry it until they told us to put it down, and then continue running up the hill to the finish line. And honestly, this event was brutal. It was so hard. So we started out, there was 4 people in a heat, and started out running really hard. Got to the sandbag. By the time you get to the sandbag, you're totally blown up, and put it on my back, and it started like slipping off the back, and so I had to keep like bucking it up to keep it on top of my shoulders, and it kind of felt never ending. And then by the time we actually got to put it down, you're just trashed. And then the final sprint was just straight up nutty. And I know that it was me and James Newbury, and he was ahead of me. He passed me on the sandbag part, and then as soon as we put it down, he was just maybe, I don't know, 20 feet or so ahead of me, and I just kept telling myself, like, you gotta try to pass him, you gotta try to pass him. And I just like emptied everything out I had left in my tank and passed him, and I was just cussing and just miserable passing the finish line, and it took me a hot minute to be a human again after that. But it was a pretty good event. I think I took like 4th or 5th on that event, 5th I think. So it went relatively well, and it just kind of kept in the mix there as well. The next event that we had was what was the next event? Ooh, the beach event. So the next event we had was the beach event. And this one was awesome. The beach there that we went to was flat out gorgeous. It was Clifton Beach here in Cape Town, and it was just white sand, had huge boulders everywhere. You're right on the backside of Table Mountain. I mean, it was gorgeous, the whole thing. The water, freezing. It was so cold. Honestly though, after we got done with the bar muscle ups, there was 30 bar muscle ups, 60 overhead squats. After we got done with that, the cold, we had a 900 meter paddle, and honestly, the cold was actually pretty refreshing. I hate cold water, and I legitimately was not too upset to be in the cold water. So coming off the bar muscle ups, I think I broke that up into 3 sets. I went 15, 9, 6, question mark. I think that sounds right. And then I got to the overhead squats and just try to keep it a nice steady pace on there. I want to say I was second off the pull-up bar, and I was the 4th person to the water. So water is always a strength of mine for swimming or paddling or whatever these long ass ape arms do in the water. It works out pretty good. So when I got to the paddle board, I knew this was kind of my time to hammer down, even though I don't really have experience on paddle boards. Like, only other time I've ever paddle boarded is at the games. So got on the paddle board, it felt super similar to the ones at the games, and just started hammering down. It was crazy windy, so it was starting to drive people off course. So in the first little bit, I overtook the first person that was in front of me pretty immediately, and then it was Cole Sager and Street Horner were then in front of me a good bit, and they kind of started veering out. So around the backside, instead of coming down straight, the wind was pushing them, and they had this big wide turn. And so I really tried to keep tight and angle in to where I was almost paddling towards shore a little bit, so the wind would then straighten me back out to the buoy. And it played out really well. I paddled super hard. I mean, it was really fatiguing. My shoulders were totally shot, but I made it around the buoy. All three of us got to that buoy where we had to pass. All three of us kind of like jammed up here. Luckily, I had the inside, and I like turned, and so we were all jammed up trying to turn. We're all on board, so like everyone's trying to figure it out. And then I felt something. I felt somebody that I thought was holding my board, and I was like, don't hold my board, like, what's going on? And he wasn't holding my board, but it was kind of a funny interaction, because then we took off, and I was able to kind of separate a little bit, and then we get to the beach, and I was just terrified, because it had a zigzag, like, beach run afterwards, and I just knew that if Cole Sager or Street Horner was hot on my heels, like, they were gonna pass my slow ass on the run. So I was like, I need to get to the beach with a little bit of a lead to make sure that I don't come down to a sprint finish. So I get to the beach, and I just like tried to run with everything I had, which was like a freaking 15-minute mile. And I start running, and then I make the turn for the zigzag, and I see Cole and Street coming out, and like they're coming hot, and I was terrified. And then so I finally made it along the last turn, and I see the home stretch, and I'm like, okay, barring he turns into Usain Bolt right now, I've got this in the bag. So like I was horribly nervous and like totally floored, like out of gas. And then I just started like being a weirdo, you know, showing off, putting up the hand, yelling at the crowd and all that stuff. And when I finished that event, I just collapsed. Like, it was so hard. I thought that was a super tough event, but it was really cool. It was a great test, and that was arguably my favorite event of the weekend. So the next event that we had on day 3 was Strongman Diane, and that one was a really cool event. So this one was 21:15.9. No, it wasn't. Scratch that. So this event was really cool. It was 963 of deficit handstand push-ups. They were kipping, but they were on a, I don't know, maybe like a 10-inch or so deficit. And instead of being on like plates or parallettes or whatever, it was actually on sandbags. So it was kind of an uneven surface, but still pretty supportive. And it was cool. It didn't feel like it was massively different than doing it from a normal implement, but that was neat. So it was the handstand push-ups, and then it was paired with the sandbag cleans over the shoulder, and it was like, I believe, a 185-pound bag. After the 963, then you had to finish with this sled drag, heavy sled drag, backwards sled drag for like, I don't know, like 75 feet. And so we get the 963 is like relatively nasty, but you know, it's pretty short. So the 963 happens. I get to the sled just after Cole Sager and just before Lucas Parker. So we all start pulling. And as much as we thought we were just gonna grab these sleds and just like take off of them, well, Lucas kind of did, but it was way heavy. And so we start dragging, and they're kind of doing like a little bit of a technique where they just like would go big pull and then step and then big pull. And I tried to just kind of like get some steam rolling and then just steadily move with it and just never stop, because I knew like my legs were hosed, like they were hurting. So I thought that I just had to kind of get my momentum and stick with it. And so I was just more like this slow and steady guy, and they were just kind of yo-yoing back and forth. And then Lucas just kind of like sticks a stick of dynamite up his ass. He starts rolling. And so he's going, and then next thing you know, for whatever reason, he was told, or he thought that he had one line less to do. So he like makes this massive effort and like yanks the sled past the line. Well, he's one line short. So he falls on his ass, and then he gets up and he's like trying to scramble, because then me and Cole are still coming in hot, and he grabs his straps, and so we're all like neck and neck, like right there. And then Cole, as I'm just about to pass, I mean, we're within feet, probably less than that. then Cole has this like last like super powerful pull, and his sled passes first, and then Lucas's, and then my slow and steady butt comes right up. So I want to say that I got third in that heat, so they both beat me in this event by, you know, a small amount, but they both beat me there. And then I can't remember who won that event. Somebody from the previous heats had beaten us in that event. So I ended up taking fourth in that one, but it was a super cool finish. Like it was a super exciting race to the finish line, and it was great. I really enjoyed that event. The next event, one of the hardest overall fitness tests of any competition ever so far. Like it was relatively short, but the output of this was just absolutely unreal. So this one was called a trap. It was on day 3, the middle workout 2, and it was a 3-minute interval of, in 3 minutes you had to do 20 cal assault bike for men, 15 for women, and then 10 ring muscle ups for men, 7 for women, and then max burpee box jump overs in remaining time with 24 inches for men, 20 for women, with a long box. So instead of like, you know, the short just getting over easy this way, it was like the long way. And burpee box jump overs are kind of one of my kryptonites. Like they jack my heart rate. Like I think everybody's heart rate gets jacked on burpee box jump overs, but I'm definitely not fast at it. So I was kind of nervous. I'm okay at the bike. I'm decent at muscle ups, and I thought like I just have to suffer here like everybody else. So we come out, and I kind of got actually faster each round on the bike. So I started out, did the 20 cals in maybe like, I don't know, like 35 or 40 seconds. Kind of was a little conservative. Did the muscle ups unbroken, and I get to the burpee box jump overs, and those just started tearing me up. So I want to say 21 on the first set. The catch in this workout is you have 3 minutes of work, 2 minutes of rest, and there's 3 rounds. If you finish the burpee box jump overs, the 50 prescribed is the number. If you finished that early, then your workout was done. You didn't have to continue. So it was a big carrot to go fast. Anyways, my first round I get through 21, and every 10 there's like a massive transition of flipping this box. So you flip this box like 1.5 trillion times to the next line, which took legitimately like every time, it's not just me because I'm slow, but like took everybody roughly like 10 seconds to flip this box. So it was like you had to plan correctly so you didn't get stuck in a bad spot. So anyways, first round I do 21, hurting obviously, and then the second round I come out, I get off the bike a little bit faster. I want to say it was like 30 couple seconds, maybe 35 seconds, and then muscle ups unbroken again. I'm starting to hurt a little bit for sure. And then I get to the burpee box jumps, and I'm just like suffering. And I got through I made it from 21 to 38. And then that round stops, and now we're in the last round. This is when like it sets in hard. Like everyone is donezo. So everyone else that's in my heat, and you know, in the top heat there was like roughly 2 to 6 burpee box jumps ahead of me. So I knew that I had to do something kind of special in this final round. So I came out really hot on the bike on the last one. I kind of poured it out. I just knew like I had to man up on this round. So I got off the bike in like 20 couple seconds, and got off the bike, I think first or second, got to the rings. I was the first one up on the rings, and after muscle up number 5, I was like, I've got problems. So I make it to number 7, and I finish my 7th rep, and I'm like, I can maybe do 10. Maybe I make it, but maybe I fail at number 9 or 10, and then I've got real problems. So I made a judgment call to come down, and I rested, and to be honest, I was feeling too sorry for myself, and I took too long a break. I straight up, like, I rested too long. So I hop back up, I do my last 3, and then I go over, well, I didn't even run over. Like, I'm like suffering over to my box. I get to my box, and I was at 38, so I had to do 2 burpee box jump overs, and then I had that stupid flip the box. So I get to my box, and I flip it, and like, I take so long to flip that box. Like, I took so long. I was just like, it's so tired. So I flip the box, and then I start my burpee box jump overs. I have 10 left, and then I just like, Sean, you've got to lay the hammer down. So I just start sprinting, my version of sprinting burpee box jump overs, the last 10 until I made it 50, and had a okay finish there. I think I was maybe 4th or forth. That's kind of the main story of my whole weekend, is I just kind of stayed right there in that 3rd to 6th, 7th place range. So but after that workout, I was hosed for a hot minute. Like, that workout it put some people down. I know poor Con Porter is, he won't say this, but he's sick. He got really sick, like violently ill this weekend. And so he did this workout, and he was in the heat before me, and he comes back to the tent, and the poor dude is just calling the dynos, and he's in the warm-up tent, just yakking pasta or whatever he needed everywhere. Like, the dude was suffering, and that's how all of us felt, and we weren't even sick. It was rough. I have literally no idea how he survived that workout as sick as he was, because it was horrible, like, for a healthy human. So the last workout of the 3rd day was the spotlight ladder, and that was a clean ladder. And if you guys have been following, anyways, I've had a hip injury for like ever. I have like 95-year-old hips for some reason. So I always have had hip issues. I broke my pelvis when I was a kid, when I was bronc riding. I split my pelvis on the left side, and I just think that's probably had, carryover, imbalance, whatever it may be. But yeah, so since basically the end of 2016, I've had some pretty massive hip problems. And it's gotten a lot better, and it's kind of like changing. So it's not anything structural. I don't need like a hip replacement or something, but it's just weird. Anyways, so I haven't done any squatting heavy at all, period, in months upon months. I have no idea when the last time my heavy squat was, or like even a moderate weight squat. I've done no Olympic weightlifting. I've done no like squatting with a barbell. Just recently, in the past maybe month and a half, 2 months, something like that, I've been able to start implementing a lot of like goblet squats. I think you guys might have seen that in my Instagram. Been doing a lot of goblet squats. Thank you, Jacob Hebner. And lots of goblet squats, lots of double kettlebell front rack squats, lots of sandbag and deep ball bear hug squats, and then just lots of like rehab hip stuff. So it's been getting a lot better, but nonetheless, I still haven't touched a heavy barbell in forever. So on this squat clean ladder, like, I'm totally expecting to just shit the bed here, to be honest. Like, I was like, I have no expectations. I'm just gonna go out there and just try to put on a show, have some fun, and just try not to re-injure myself and try not to embarrass myself too much. So I go out and I'm starting to warm up, and I've cleaned, I want to say, in the warm up, the heaviest bar in the first wave was 286, 130 kilos. And I cleaned that, and it went pretty fast. Like, I didn't struggle with it at all, and it didn't hurt my hip, which I was totally expecting it to. So I was kind of excited right before the ladder starts. I'm like, well, this is automatically better than I expected it to be. So the first ladder starts, and I'm like, literally, I was talking and carrying on, waving at the crowd, and doing my stuff in the middle of the event the whole time. And everyone else is like, a lot of other people doing touch and go reps off the beginning, which I just thought was a bad plan, and it was absolutely a bad plan for me. So I was doing my, still quick singles, but I was kind of playing with it. Like, my first barbell, I just didn't even do like real clean. I just like pulled the barbell, didn't like bend my legs at all, and just like curled the barbell into a squat. And it's the most horrible looking movement ever, but I was just doing it to have fun. And I moved relatively quickly, and I think I actually won my heat. I'm pretty sure I won my heat on the first wave of squat lengths. It ended at 286. And it was like 5 at 205, 4 at 220, 3 at 245, 2 at 265, 1 at 286. And yeah, I won my heat, and I was like, what? And I was so stoked. I was up on the box, just like, having a blast, waving my hand there, shaking my butt, whatever I was doing. And so then I made it to the next heat, and I was just like, my goal was to try to make it in the top half. And so I did. I made it in the top half, pretty significantly, actually, in the final heat. And so then on wave 2, it was 3, 3, 2, 2, and 1 reps at heavier loads. And same thing, I just kind of came out steady, and I remember Con and all the other guys were back. Con and Lukey and all those guys were back in the street, and everyone was in the right behind me. And they're like, "All right, Sean, no showing off here. Like, put your nose to the grindstone, focus, and don't be celebrating until you get to that finish line." And so I'm like, "Hey, I can for sure do that. Undoubtedly, can I do that?" And couldn't do it. So they're saying 3, 2, 1, go, and I was like, "Hey boys, watch these first 3 cleans." And I did the same thing. I just pulled the barbell into a front rack, and they're just like, "What are you doing?" And I couldn't help myself. So anyways, I still am nice and steady, and I made the 286 bar twice. There was 2 at 286 for the final set of 2. There's 2 at 264, 2 at 286, and then the final bar was 315 or 308 or whatever the heck it ends up being in kilos. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to make that one. So I took a couple breaths and pretty sure, waved the hat at the crowd and had some fun there, but made the lift, and it wasn't even a super big struggle. So I was incredibly excited with how that went, and I didn't make it into the final, the third cut. So I was one spot shy of that. So I made 7th overall in the event, which I was totally expecting to take. I was going to be thrilled with 12th. So I was really happy with how that event shook out. Next event that we'll talk about was Sprint Murph. Sprint Murph. So Sprint Murph was something to where we had 1 round 800 meter run, then we had to do 50 chest to bar, 100 push-ups, 150 air squats, and 800 meter run. Catch was obviously you're wearing a vest, and then everything had to be done in unbroken sets of 25. So the way they structured this is that you couldn't have, obviously the pull-up, you couldn't break before 25. The push-ups, same thing, you couldn't break, but there was approved rest positions and then non-approved rest positions. So if you were doing your push-ups and you were starting to hit failure, you could shove yourself up into a plank and even put your butt in there to almost like a pike, as long as your hips didn't get behind your knees. So you couldn't go into a crouching position, which was I hadn't even considered that. Actually, this Con was like, "Hey, can we do this?" And I'd never even thought of that. It was genius. But so you had to stay in a plank position until your 25 push-ups. If you broke at any point, then you had to do a 200 meter penalty run. So if you failed at push-up 23, you would have to do a 200 meter penalty run and come in and then pick up and do 2 more and then do another 25 unbroken. You get the gist. So I just kind of immediately knew the top guys don't do penalty runs, period. I knew that I had to pace this one correctly to where penalty runs wasn't going to happen. So came out and ran most times when there's a CrossFit event and we have a run, everybody comes out at a 3-minute mile, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Luckily, no one came out that crazy hot, so that was sweet. So I just kind of stayed maybe mid-pack in the 800 meter run. Got to the pull-ups, did a set of 25 unbroken, chalked up, did another set of 25 unbroken. Then you had to do a 200 meter run after the pull-ups before you started the push-ups, and then started the 100 push-ups. So this was where the whole workout started, in my opinion. The push-ups were the workout. So, well, at least the deciding factor of the workout. So I did the first set of 25, no problem, unbroken. Get to the second set of 25, and I made it unbroken. I wouldn't say no problem, but I could tell that the next 2 sets were going to start to be an issue. So shake it out, and you had to move a block every 25. So you grab your kettlebell and carry it. So the first 25 is in a block, carry it, next block, so on. So I have 2 sets of 25 down, and I made them, but I knew that this was going to become problematic in set 3 and 4. So I get ready to start in set 3, and I see Street Horner's pretty good bit ahead of me. Cole Sager, once we move into the 3rd block, he was ahead of me by a bit, not a massive amount, but he was definitely ahead of me. And at this point, there's only 2 points separating me and Cole coming into Sprint Murph. So this is the last day of competition. There's 2 points between me and Cole Sager, and there's 1 spot to the games. So I was straight up nervous, crazy nervous. As we're going, I'm just watching and trying to be aware of where he's at. And I see he's ahead of me, but I'm like, okay, I need to use this information, but I also have to just kind of play my own game. If I blow up here, then I'm going to be, there's no chance of catching him if I start doing penalty runs. So third set of push-ups is a struggle. You know, I'm getting through maybe like 13 or 15, and then I'm having to put my butt up and then do 2 or 3 in a row and put my butt up, and then 3 or 4 in a row, put my butt up, or however it shook out. But did it all unbroken. And then I move into the last set. So me and Cole move into the last set of push-ups, the last block at the same time, basically. And I think we started our push-ups, I'll say, just for the sake of argument, at the same time. Maybe I started a hair ahead or he started a hair ahead, but effectively we started our final, our fourth set, Jesus, math is bad. Our fourth set of push-ups, we both started at the same time. So we started our push-ups, and this set is freaking hard. Like, it's everything I could do to not break. So I want to say I come out with like 13 fast, and then I start doing my small sets, and I was down to doing sets of like 1 and 2, like obviously not resting, but going to a plank position and holding for a second, and then like doing a rep, squeezing it out, putting the butt up, and it was a struggle to get through. So barely made it through the last set of 25 unbroken, and now there has to be another run, a 200-meter run, before I start the squats. So I get done with my push-ups, and me and Cole started at the same time, remember that? So we started push-ups at the same time. Then I go out for this run, and I'm like 90% done with this penalty run, and I can still see the field. And Cole is still in the push-up position. Most impressive thing I saw all weekend. It was freaking nuts. The dude must have been in a push-up position for like 2.5 minutes. It was crazy. Like, that was just straight up sheer determination. He was just like, I will not break the set, and I refuse to do a penalty run. Honestly, if I tried to hold that position for that long, I would have just fallen and broken my nose. So hats off to the dude, man. It was crazy. So I come in, and I'm like 80-90% done with my run, and then I see Cole take off. So I come in, and now I know, like, air squats, for me, squatting is not like a fantastic movement. I mean, obviously I can squat, but Cole is 10,000 times better at squatting than I am. So I come into the air squats, and air squats in a Murph type workout are always like what I feel like is one of the hardest parts. So I get to the squats, and they have to be done in 25 unbroken, and the way they're saying that is it's 25 without any resting at the top. So show lockout, and then no more. If your judge could ever count 1/1000 with you standing at the top, then that's a non-approved rest, and you have to do a penalty 200-meter run before continuing. So massive penalty if you get caught hanging out at the top of the squat. So I start squatting in just a smooth, steady pace. I know if I come out red hot, I'm gonna fall off the wagon. So I started a smooth, steady pace and just kind of keep chipping away. And then I knew I had to push my squats really hard, because I knew that if it came down to just the run, once again, Cole's really good with those short power outputs. So like, if it came down to a foot race, like, I didn't want to have to leave that to chance, especially with there's only being 2 points between us on the leaderboard. So I start squatting like as fast as I squat, and made it through, and I start my run, and I want to say I was like 300 meters, 200 or 300 meters maybe, something around that time frame-ish, when I kind of thought I heard that Cole was done with his squats and heading out. So I knew, like, all right, Sean, like, as long as you don't totally suck on this run, you're going to beat him. But that's not enough. Like, you need to have people between you and him to make up points. So I tried to push the run as hard as I could. There was really no, like, the separation was pretty massive between the guys in front of me and the guys behind me. So there wasn't a whole lot of room to make up. So I just kind of had to hold my pace, and I pushed the pace hard. It was a really hard run, but, like, made it through, and, like, yeah, I was floored. I flopped at the end of the workout. Like, it was a tough one, but I was really happy with that performance, just because I kind of played my game well and kept aware of the field without letting it ruin me. So I thought that was a great event, and yeah, so now I'd made up a couple spots and a couple points on it. So now we're in a good spot going to the next one. Coming into the handstand workout. So this was supposed to be, as advertised, what they said, was it was a 100-meter handstand walk for time, which I was stoked on, because like handstand walking is typically pretty good for me. So I was like, man, I hope it's just a straight up like 100-meter handstand walk for time. And we did not get so lucky. So instead, it was for time, it's still a short event, but it was 30-calorie row, and then you handstand walk 60 feet, and then 30-calorie skier, and then you handstand walk 30 feet normal, and then 30 feet of a zigzag through like, or around these like sandbags. And then a 30-calorie concept 2 bike erg, and then off the bike and run to the finish line. So I was immediately like, shit, you know, this is gonna be rough because Cole is like really good. At this point, like the race is between me and Cole, and like we know that, and you know, so that's where my head's at. So I was like, Cole is very good at like power output and machines. So I'm like, man, I've got to sell my soul here. And just as, you know, as being a competitor for a while, I had a feeling that there was thrusters coming up in the final event. And I knew that Cole is so much better at thrusters than I am. So I won't say so much, but he's better at thrusters than I am. I had a feeling, and I didn't want to leave that to chance. So I kind of knew that in this 9th event that I needed to sell my soul and make sure that I could make up some ground. That way I could give myself a little bit of a cushion going into the final. So this should, on paper, shouldn't have been a massively hard event. Like on paper, like sure it's gonna hurt and you're gonna sprint and it's gonna burn. But honestly, I am not positive that I've ever went that dark in a competition CrossFit workout ever, period. Like, it was absolutely insane. So we all get off the rower at roughly the same time. We handstand walk. We get to the skier. I was maybe a little bit ahead of him, and start biker or skiing getting pretty fast. Didn't even know that Tim was there. Tim apparently had a motor attached to his skier because he was done in like 4 seconds, and I didn't even know that he was there. I thought he was. I didn't even have a concept of where he was at because I was so focused on where Cole was, and that's all I was looking at. And so I started skier getting pretty fast, and then I get to the handstand walk. I'm like, undoubtedly has to be unbroken. Like I can handstand walk 60 feet unbroken, like no matter what. So I was like, I just need to trust myself here and get to that bike erg before Cole. Like if I can get to that bike 10 or 15 seconds ahead of Cole, I've got a real shot. And so I go unbroken on the handstand walk, and I get onto the bike. I've never been on a Concept 2 biker. Like this is my first time, literally, never been on a Concept 2 bike. So I didn't know. I was like, maybe it's like an assault bike or an echo bike, and like if you just absolutely throttle it, it'll just start like throwing through calories. No, that is incorrect. It does not do that. So I get on that biker, and no kidding, I was at 3,700 calories per hour coming out the gates, and I held that as long as I could, and by the time I was down to like 10 calories remaining, I was at couple hundred calories per hour, and then I just was like, I was literally dying. Like I had no more juice. Like I was giving the most supreme effort, period, like ever. I could not, my body was physically not capable of doing anymore. And then when I saw 4 calories, I was on full-blown autopilot. Like honestly, I don't even know. I don't know who was pedaling, but it wasn't me. And I get off the bike, and I've never had this happen. So everybody's had their legs hurt like hell. But I tried to start running, and no kidding, my quads would not straighten out, like, or they wouldn't bend. They were just locked out, especially my left leg. I tried to run, and I couldn't. I felt like I was in leg braces. Like, you know, you seen Forrest Gump, and he's like running when the guy's throwing rocks at him, they're on the bikes, and he starts like still walking. That's how I felt. I was just cooking it as fast as I could, which is like 1 mile an hour. And I look at the finish line, and I see Tim Paulson, and he's just like squatting and like patiently waiting for me to cross. like, come on, Sean, like, you can do it, buddy. And I feel like I'm crushing this workout. And I'm just like, he must have been in a different heat. Like, I'm like delusional at this point. I'm like, there's no way. Like, he must have been in a different heat. So I cross, I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm like, Tim, what heat? Were you in our heat? And he's like, yes. I have honestly no clue how you went that fast. Like, he smoked us, like not even close to a race. It was nutty. It was a pretty badass performance by Tim. But that gave me a second place finish. I think on the leaderboard they had it jacked up a little bit to where like they accidentally gave Colin a first on that one. But anyway, so yeah, it was Tim, then me, and then I think there was a few people between like 4 or 5 people between me and Cole, which was massive. So as soon as like I finished that event, I'm in horrendous pain, right? And so like I'm all excited, I kind of celebrate, and, like, you know, cheer on at the crowd, and then I just crumple. And I was feeling horrid, like just totally worked. And we had a briefing immediately after in the field there under the rig. And so like I honestly like kind of got some help to get over. Like I couldn't even exist. I was hurting so bad. Like, I haven't hurt this bad in the competition. I don't even know if ever. And I get under the rig and like they're doing this briefing and we're in the grass and I was just on all fours. Like I had my forearms on the grass and I was on my knees with my head on resting on the ground and I was just dry heaving in the middle of the brief. Like I heard nothing on the brief. Like, absolutely nothing. I was on a different planet, just like dry heaving in the grass. And then the brief took like, I don't know, whatever, 10 minutes or something, and then everyone kind of like leaves, and I can't move. Like I'm just spitting in like horrible pain in the grass, and then before you know it, I'm right under the rig, and then before you know it, like I'm just like violently vomiting, just yakking, calling dinos everywhere, and I accidentally puked. So apparently it's splattered on one of the volunteers' shoes, and I've apologized to you like 9,000 times, but I am so sorry for puking in your shoe. It was the worst. I couldn't help it. I was hosed. I was so sick. And for like legitimately like 30 minutes, I didn't freaking move. Like I was just puking and just worked. And they're like, should we call the medics? I'm like, nope. I'm just like dark in the pain cave right now. This is just, I just need to collect myself. And then I was there, like they were trying to kind of help me walk off the field. And I'm like, Sean, you need to pull it together, man. Like, you're kind of being dramatic here. So I was like, no, I got this. Like, I got this. I'm ready to go. I start walking. And then I just started driving again. And I was just a mess. So I was so nervous because then in that briefing, from what I gather, we're doing thrusters. And I can't even, like, function right now. So I was so unbelievably nervous coming into this last event. So now we're coming into the final. And I am 26 points ahead of Cole Sager, and I think I had a pretty good cushion on the guy below. So I knew I had to just, what I had to do is I had to execute. I had to perform to the best of my abilities, just like always. But barring a massive slip up on my performance, I was going to go to the CrossFit Games. So it was a short event of rope climbs, legless rope climbs, and thrusters. It was incredibly similar to an event in the 2018 regionals, except this was an ascending ladder of thrusters, so the thrusters got heavier. It started at like 95 or 100 pounds, and then went 135, and then 165 question mark, and it's in kilos, so whatever it may be. 3, 2, 1 of the legless rope climbs. It was really short rope. I think it was probably like 12 feet. So I just knew, like, I watched the heats go before, and the thrusters were kind of breaking it off in the guys, and if they went unbroken on the 15, then they were probably like breaking up the set of 9 and like struggling there. But there was a couple people that went unbroken, and I was like, okay, Sean, if you like, you're gonna go unbroken. Like, if you go out there and move smoothly and go unbroken with no rest, you are going to go to the CrossFit Games. And I have no way of telling you how much pressure that was on. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. So thrusters aren't like a massive like strong suit for me, I'm honestly not crazy good at any one, maybe deadlifts kind of, but I'm really not that great at anything in the grand scheme of things. I just kind of like have steady performances. So I'm just nervous because I know that Cole is really good at thrusters, and I know he's really explosive at these like short, fast events, and I was just incredibly nervous. So we come out, we do 3 legless rope climbs, we get to the thruster bar, he's a little bit ahead of me. He finishes, we do the 21, he finishes just a little bit ahead of me, he gets on the rope, I think he's a full rope climb ahead of me. Then we do the 2 rope climbs, we get to the 15 bar, and I immediately see how it's playing out. It's me and Cole, and then everyone else is a little bit behind us. So I'm like, I have to stick with him, and I have to go unbroken. Like, I don't have options at this point. So get to the bar of 15, the 15 and 135, and I'm like, this is it, you're going unbroken. And I got to like 9 or 10, and I'm like, okay, this is starting to get hard, but I know I can make all 15. So I make all 15, and now it's a straight horse race. And so Cole runs back, he does his rope climb, I think before I even get there. And he comes over to, then he comes back to I do my rope climb, we come back to the 9 bar. I want to say he's a couple thrusters already in when I got there, of the 9 at 165. And I made it through, I want to say 4 or 5, and it felt pretty good. Like I was like, okay, I can do all 9 rapid fire, like I got this in the bag. And then I like stutter stepped, and I had the bar overhead, and I like stutter stepped, like, oh shit, and I almost fell over, and then I kind of recollected, and I continue, and then I finished the 7th rep. I finished the 7th rep, and I like have this press out, like, oh god, that was no longer like an easy thruster. Now I'm struggling, and I had 3 more reps. I'm like, honestly, smart thing would be to break, but I can't afford that. I can't afford that at all. So then thrusters 7, 8, and 9, especially 8 and 9, were honestly like disgusting. Like I just tried to throw the bar up with my hips for my drive for my legs, and then just kind of pray. And my left arm, you can see it in the videos if you saw like the stories, my left arm is like trailing behind and then like snaking and making it. Like it's still, it's perfectly fine rep, but it was a total struggle, and everyone that was watching was saying like they thought there was no way I was making those last 2, and but I just knew that this was it. Like if I held on for these extra couple thrusters, I was gonna be going to the CrossFit Games, and you know what? That's exactly what I did. So made those thrusters, and I kind of came across the line, and man, I can't even explain the feeling that brought over me. It's just like, you've done it. Like you've officially done it. There's no question. It was Cole and then me, first and second, and I was like, there's absolutely no question on whether you're going to the games or not. You've put in the work, you stayed consistent, and here it is. And I was just so pumped to be able to have that moment and share it with the crowd and have it was just nuts. It was freaking awesome. So as a kind of like an overview of the whole weekend, I thought it was a fantastic weekend. I truly enjoyed the test that they put forward. I thought that it was a great, well-rounded competition, and I won, so maybe I'm biased, but from everything that I heard from all the other competitors, it was nothing but positive. I heard no complaints, like just like any competition, like sometimes things run behind or some little tiny stuff, but in the grand scheme of everything, it was a fantastic competition. The whole staff and team was great about keeping us in the loop and doing everything that they needed for us. I think everybody stepped up and had a fantastic performance. One of my favorite things about competing was just shooting the shit with the guys and gals in the back in the athlete area. I feel like everybody that competes in our sport is truly awesome. Like there is nobody who sucks. I really don't think I know anybody, I don't think so, that sucks in CrossFit. Like back in the back, like we're all having a blast. Like the whole time, like I enjoyed just being back there and hanging out with the guys and gals and just making jokes, talking and hearing from where everybody's stories of where they come from, what they do, past competitions, just all the banter back and forth. Honestly, it's a really amazing experience to be a part of, and You know, if you are watching this and you haven't been out there and done competitions before, I don't know what it is about the, you know, the competitive spirit or the shared suffering or whatever it may be, but get out there and compete and experience that, because I feel like it's one of the most special parts of the competition is just simply existing with the other competitors and meeting new people, and it's truly awesome. So the whole experience down here was just flat out amazing, and I can't wait to go and train for like 6 months now, make a real plan, work my ass off, and see you guys out there in Madison.